Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another amazing episode of my 2023 Spilling the Astro Tea. I have one of my beautiful mentors and one of my favorite astrologers to learn from and listen to, Babula, with me today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited. And as soon as I asked Babula to come back, she said yes straight away, and she had her topic picked straight away. So you're in for a juicy one today. I'm super pumped to talk about all things Saturn today. And I am, of course, in honor of Saturn, wearing my Saturn earrings because, you know, I honor him in many ways, but always with the earring. And as usual, I'm going to ask the same question that I've been asking to all my astrologers on the panel, and that is, what is your favorite thing about astrology, Babula?
Well, it's such a fantastic question. And of course, it can take us in so many directions because there are so many things to say. But really, I think for me, I've said this so many times to people over the years, I am so grateful to astrology for 100 reasons. What it's given me in my life is just phenomenal. But I find for me, it's allowed me to connect with people very quickly in a very real and deep way, in an authentic way. You know, and I think that's really been the key for me. It's also, and I discovered this very early on when I started teaching way back, as being a shy, nervous young person, you know, wouldn't stand up and say boo to a goose. I just was compelled to start sharing astrology because I loved it so much. This is a long time ago. And I thought, I have to share this with people. And I stood up in front of a group of people and started talking. There were no nerves whatsoever. And I realized that astrology gave me a voice and gave me a vehicle to express myself and to connect with people in a way that was real and authentic and of value to them and to me. And it was immediate. And that's been true ever since.
Wow. I love that it was the vehicle, you know, to come through the shyness. It was like when you said you stood up there, it's like the homecoming. Like, I can talk about all of this and not be shy.
Exactly. And not only was I not shy, I loved it.
Yes.
Because it was this immediate connection with the people I was talking to. And it showed me that that's true for us all in any situation when we're in the zone of something we love and just naturally want to share. What's there to be shy about? What's there to be nervous about? You know, you're just connecting with people and heart to heart, person to person, soul to soul. And isn't that what we all want?
Yes,
you know,
I love that.
Real connection. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And of course, you know, it also just confirms for me that we're star beings. You know, we're so connected to the stars and the heavens and the cosmos every single day.
Yeah,
you know,
we literally are that.
We are completely. And I have to say one more thing. The other beautiful piece about it is that it just expands the view of life. I'm getting goosebumps now just speaking of this. Big picture, you know, you step back and you see everything in such a big framework. You know, we love to go into the nitty-gritty details, and then very quickly we're expanding right out and seeing how this little piece is fitting into this piece and this, and we just keep stretching it.
Yes.
Doesn't a big picture view make all the difference in the world?
Absolutely. And, you know, and it's something that I've always said about astrology is that it's a secret, not so secret superpower. Like, it literally is a superpower. And the awareness of astrology changes the way you live and perceive life forever. Like, there's no turning back once you're in it and you're melded in it. And the big picture stuff is massively important because we do get lost in humanness, and it's only the ego that makes things complicated. You know, it's one of my favorite sayings around where there is complication, ego, and simplicity, God. And as much as astrology is layered, of course, and there's rabbit holes, and you could study astrology forever and then learn something new from someone that you didn't know about. Like, you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that about astrology. And it continues. And when you stay green and fresh with astrology, you know, it's this lifelong journey. Like it never, ever, ever ends. And it just gives you, it's just, yeah, it is. It's magic. And I love your story around it, because I totally agree with the connecting in with people. And, you know, that's what I love teaching too, is like the acceptance that we can have, instead of, yes, we're going to square or rub up against some people or oppose sometimes, depending on moon signs and whatever. But ultimately, when we can see that in someone's chart, there's this element of acceptance and like, okay, that's your moon's in this sign, so you're actually processing your emotions very differently to me, and it's not wrong, it's just different. Yeah,
exactly. And it's perfect for them.
yes, exactly. And it helps us to understand and, like you said, deepen friendships very quickly. I mean, me and you, I remember I swooned when I first got to meet Babula at Michaela's house. We had this witches weekend, and it was so beautiful a few years ago. And I'd actually heard of Babula back, you know, in my 20s. And I had a friend who was studying with Babula. I was a single mum at the time. I was studying astrology sort of through her, and, you know, it's been my whole life. But then when I finally got to meet you, and then just immediately it was just like this instant connection, and we understood each other, and it was just this beautiful language that you get to speak. And it's just forever grateful that you're in my life.
Oh, darling, me too. Me too. That's so beautiful.
I love
it. And isn't it so beautiful that language, when we learn the language, that's why I've always loved going to astrology conferences and so on, because everyone comes together and away we go. You know, we're in the language, and it can feel exclusive to others who don't know it, but it's simply a matter of learning the language and the symbolism, and it opens up a whole massive door. And when I used to teach beginners classes over the years, I noticed people would say again and again, what a wonderful thing it is to come together like this with people that I can just be myself with, because we're learning the same thing, this language that's blowing my mind open, and all our minds are being blown open together.
Yeah.
And I can just be who I am here. It's like finding a whole new tribe of people where you're on the same wavelength, and people don't get that a lot in their lives. You know, amongst family and friends, they often feel very disconnected and isolated and different and odd. In the world of astrology, there's no one's odd.
No.
So we're all odd.
Exactly. There's no separation. It's just like, oh, you're odd because of that Mars placement, but that's okay. We love you anyway.
Exactly.
Oh, all right. Let us dive into this, because I've already been soaking in. As everyone knows, I've already written my 2023 energy survival kit. So I've sort of given an overview of Saturn in Pisces, but there's no one better to do this than Babula, who has her Sun and Mercury in Pisces, right?
Yes, and the North Node.
And her North Node, of course, darling. Of course she does. How did I forget that one? And we are going to talk about this incredible ingress that I'm so excited about. So I'm going to shut up, because I've got like lots of different things too that we can talk about. But this first part, I'm going to hand it over to you. You picked this subject straight away, and I was super happy that it was you doing it, because for me, you're one of my greatest teachers. You're my crone medicine. You know, you've taught me, you know, I'm getting goosebumps now, because you've really exposed Lilith so much to me as well, and now I go on and teach her from my lens and perspective, and it's been so beautiful. So I really can't wait to unpack and hear, and I hope everyone's ready with pens and open hearts to listen to this, because it's actually such a special signature transit that I'm really excited about.
Me too, and I've got goosebumps now too.
Goosebumps.
It's a really important thing that's coming in next year.
It is,
and there's a lot to say about it. So we'll do our best to cover as much as we can that's of help and useful insight to people. So,
of course,
as with everything, every sign, every planet, people say, is that good or bad? They ask me that all the time. It's both, and it depends. You know, it's like, it's all of that. So it's really important to me always, even when we get excited about something that looks like it's going to be really positive, we've always got to address the shadow side and the real nitty gritty human challenges of it as well. You know, otherwise we're just living on the surface of things. So Saturn in Pisces will absolutely bring its challenges, but its tremendous gifts as well, always. So I want to talk about Saturn, and I want to talk about Pisces, and then what can happen when these two come together. So
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. So the energy of Saturn, of course, is both challenging and also extremely rewarding when we learn and understand and integrate what Saturn's purpose really is. So I often describe him as a great and wise teacher discussed as a miserable, tough old bastard. Like Saturn doesn't make things easy. He has many names and titles, you could say. In ancient Rome, he was the lord of agriculture, the god of agriculture, because it's real Saturn, it rules Capricorn. It's an earthy energy in many ways. And that in itself opens up a whole realm, because to me, Saturn is the lord of the 3D temporal realm, this realm of physicality that we as beings, as souls, as spirit, vast and spacious, come down to earth and become contained in these physical mortal bodies, these vessels. And there are many esotericists who say that as the soul is coming through the dimensions from the beyond, and it comes to the solar system to be born on this planet, the first gateway, if you like, there's 7 gateways that it must pass through, is Saturn. And Saturn is where that kind of beginning of the word that's there is entrapment, because Saturn can often feel like the soul's trapped in this body and in this physical form and on this planet. And Saturn transits often feel like that. So there's this kind of condensing that begins to happen as and I don't know, because many people speak of this in different ways and have different theories and ideas about it, but that could be, the beginning of perhaps conception. I don't know, when the physical form is beginning to be constructed for the soul, to arrive in. So Saturn's always about form and structure and physicality and shape and density. And many say that planet Earth is, one of the densest planets in the universe. That may be true, and it's in many ways ruled by Saturn. Yeah. And so we come in, and Saturn is known famously as the Lord of Karma, the Lord of time. What are time and karma about? It's about completing unfinished business, residues of unfinished business from the past. And, ideas like completing and fulfilling a mission, or passing the through the ring, passing through an important gateway that can be very, very challenging to test the soul. We're very tested during Saturnian when Saturn's strong. Just think what happened when Saturn met Pluto in 2020. Yeah. And some people are in their own birth chart more Saturnian than others. Some of you listening to this will be very Saturnian naturally. You might have a lot of Capricorn, strong Saturn aspects, and others less so. So Saturn's about the struggle of daily human life, hardship, restrictions, delays, obstacles, troubles. We've got to talk in very real terms here. Difficulty. Things are put on hold. We can't move forward until we deal with this, whatever this is that's right in front of us right now. I've just come through a very strong passage I live with my daughter and 2 grandchildren, and they all got very sick, one after another. And transiting Saturn was right on my Venus, exactly on my Venus, just sitting right on it in the 6th house of health and illness and day-to-day work. And I just had to be feet on the ground 24/7 through that whole period, and just take care of people and hold the fort and just get through it. That's Saturn. Yeah. You have to endure it, get through it, be strong. And Saturnian people know this. They live this in their life, because somebody has to keep steering the ship. And I just kept praying that, please keep me well so that I can do this. And I am, and I was. So it was intense, and it was strong and it was hard. But as Saturn always brings is great teaching, great wisdom, great benefit in the long run. In the middle of it, it doesn't always feel like it. It's just like, God, why is this so hard? You know, am I going to get through this? Then we begin to see like, wow, look what's actually happening here. Yeah. And what I'm seeing energetically is the bonds and connections between us have gotten even deeper and stronger. Like there's been these amazing, deep, subtle shifts going on in our little family dynamic that's been really powerful and beautiful.
I just can't believe that, of course, Saturn was on top of your Venus in the 6th. Like, this is how literal. And so, and yes, astrology can be so literal. And just as a little thing here, you know, this didn't happen to Babula. Babula didn't get sick. So everyone would think, oh, you know, Saturn going through my 6th, am I going to get sick? But no, she was actually taking care, Venus, of those people that she lives with day to day. So
and love, that's right.
And love, that's right. That's amazing.
That's right. And of course, the 6th house is also work. So all my work just got put on hold. Everything got cancelled. So that stopped, you see. Everything else stopped because Saturn says, now you're doing this. That's all you're doing. So he is the master of stripping everything away, because right now, oh, see, I'm goosebumping all over the place.
Yeah.
Because right now, you're doing this and only this. You give everything you have to this. And so everything else has to go. Yeah. Which I just did because, well, that's what you do. And as we come out of it then, all of a sudden, everyone's showing up wanting to book into this and book it. So it's like you come out of that passage that was very difficult, but extraordinary. Seriously. So this is like, in a nutshell, I've just come out of my own experience, what Saturn brings. So I will never shy away from being honest about, yes, it's hard and yes, it's tough, because it's really important that we face that, you know. So we see Saturn transits coming and we go, okay, you know, what's this going to bring? But the long-term value and benefit, you know, we mature, we grow, we see how strong we are and how capable we are, you know, more than we realize often. But yeah, I can do this. I can do this. I did do this, you know. So tremendous wisdom that comes with Saturn. He's like the ring past knot, like we have to go through, and it can feel like the ring has constricted and tightened, and we're going through this sort of narrow sort of portal. We feel squeezed and challenged and so on. So he also represents old age, but in that sense, it's about the soul maturing and growing in wisdom. You know, all we older souls bring into this incarnation a wisdom born of many, many, many lifetimes of all kinds of experiences, including many struggles and hardships and so on. You know, and it's not even about biological age, or there's a factor in that too, as you know, as the body ages. Hopefully one would wish that there's wisdom that comes with that, but on a soul level this is true. Absolutely. Now I want to speak about something very challenging with Saturn. In the mythology, Saturn was one of the children of, this is in Greek Roman mythology, of the original god Uranus, sky god, the sky itself, and Gaia, the earth. And Uranus, as the ruler, the king, the leader, decided that he wasn't going to take the chance of one of his children usurping his position of power. So what did he do? He swallowed them all every time. No, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. Well, I'm jumping ahead. Saturn overthrew his father Uranus, killed him, right? So then Saturn takes the throne. Saturn is now the ruler. Saturn, having been through that experience himself, he knows he killed his father. Hang on, my children could do that to me and take my throne. That's not going to happen. So what did he do? Every time his wife Rhea gave birth to one of their children, he would swallow it. So Saturn can also represent the swallowing father, father being a symbol for the ruler, the boss, the king, the government, the prime minister, the parent, the teacher, those in positions of authority and power, how do they endeavor to swallow you, swallow us? What do we swallow to keep ourselves safe? And I have to put safe in inverted commas because nothing's ever safe. You know, that's an illusion, actually. So what do we do to keep ourselves safe that causes us to swallow something in ourselves, to swallow back down and cause indigestion, actually? And who is also swallowing us? Who is trying to swallow us? Now, this is actually very real. There are actually images. There's a very famous painting by Goya, his paintings were very dramatic, of Saturn devouring a child, literally eating a child. Now, this may or may not be easy for some people to take, but this does happen on this planet, literally. It's also a really powerful metaphor. So how does a parent seek to swallow and reduce a child to be what it wants it to be instead of allowing that child to blossom and be fully who it is? So this is a really important part of Saturn that we all have to come to terms with as a literal story, but also as a metaphor. And I think it's important, given that we've all come through this really powerful Saturn-Pluto conjunction in 2020, which, you know, set off a whole new process. And so there is this really dark side to Saturn, you know, and the really dark side is that sense of, I'll do whatever I need to survive, literally, even if it causes harm to myself or others, you know, and keep everything locked up tight. So that's an important thing to address. So, but ultimately, Saturn is the great wise teacher of wisdom, of maturity, and it's the wisdom that comes through challenging experiences. It's not something you're ever going to read about in a book.
That's right.
You know, it's not knowledge, is it? It's direct experience.
That's right. And I'm constantly saying that, oh, darling, unless you've had your first Saturn return, I don't take you seriously. Like, I'm not being coached from someone who hasn't had a Saturn return. I'm sorry.
I know, that's right. Because you go through one of those really important, pivotal, challenging processes that sets your life in a new direction of real purpose. And, you know, a big question, well, why am I here?
Yeah.
That's right. No, that's right. Completely agree. That's right. These Saturn cycles are so important.
Huge.
So huge. So Saturn's been in Aquarius, as we know, through all of last year and all of 22. And on the 7th of March, which I have to make this comment because I find it quite remarkable, on my birthday, Saturn moves into Pisces. Isn't that?
Oh my God. I turned my microphone off, but because I need to have the person speaking. But oh my God, that is, of course you have to do this. Then I totally didn't even put your birthday together with this. This is exciting.
It's wild. Yeah. So it's just, it's really wild. So Saturn will be at 0 degrees of Pisces, not only on my birthday, but that's the degree of my North Node as well. So this transit is, for me personally, is going to be very significant. And then Saturn will remain in Pisces for 3 years, 23, 24, 25. In 25, it will, you know, pop into Aries for a while and slip back. So it's very cuspal in 25, but all through 23 and 24, fully in the sign of Pisces. In 23, it gets up to, I made a note, it gets up to about 7 degrees. So it'll be from 0 to 7 degrees of Pisces. It gets to 7 and will retrograde back to about half a degree of Pisces. It doesn't go back into Aquarius.
No.
So all of you have anything in your chart between 0 and 7 of Pisces particularly, but also the opposite sign of Virgo and the square signs of Gemini and Sagittarius will be receiving a Saturn transit. But for the collective, this is quite important for a lot of reasons. And Have we got 3 hours to do this, Tiana?
I know. I wish. I'm like, oh my goodness,
I
we
know.
could talk for 3 hours.
No, I know, but we will do our very best to condense this and give you the whole kind of the sense of it. So Pisces, what might this be about for us as Saturn moves into Pisces? It's a water sign. It's the final sign of the zodiac, which in itself holds tremendous significance. It's the last sign. We always symbolically start the zodiac with Aries, which is why Aries is always starting new things. It's that impulse always to begin, just off the starter's block and go. Pisces, by the time we get to Pisces and journey through the zodiac and come to Pisces, we're tired, which is why Pisces often don't have really high energy. There's a kind of a soul weariness. And if we're having strong Neptune transits, for example, which is the ruler of Pisces, often people just go, I'm so tired. So because it's the sign of completion, of emptying out, of letting go. We don't initiate new things here. We're releasing, we're letting go, we're allowing ourselves to slow down. It's more of a sign of surrender. And the symbol for Pisces, of course, is the two fish. And this has long fascinated me because the two fish tell us a great deal. One fish, you could say, is connected back to source and God and where we come from and what we are ultimately. The other fish swims down into this human experience in physicality. And they are connected. If you look at the symbol, the two fish are connected by that silver cord, which those who are conscious of astral traveling in the night, I don't remember anything when I sleep. I have no idea where I go. I wake up in the morning and I have no idea what happened. Some people are very kind of cognizant of dreams and experiences and so on. But the soul, I understand, is connected to the body when we astral travel by a silver cord. And I think that's very interesting, isn't it? This symbol of Pisces, the sign more than any other that we could say really connects us to soul, to spirit. And that connecting line between the two fish, one that is always connected to God's spirit source, whatever is our language for that, the mystery, divine, and the other fish having this human experience. And there's so much in that. It's because in Pisces we experience literally, even if we're not fully conscious of it, this sense of, I know there's something else. I know there's something more. Why is this life so hard? I know there's another place that's so beautiful. So this is a sign of romantics, poets, dreamers, musicians, artists, but also the sign of mystics. But it's also the sign of addiction to drugs and alcohol. And because when Pisces energy is present and strong and active, we do experience, through the incredible sensitivity of the sign, tremendous suffering because everything is felt. Everything is felt because the veil separating us, from everything, the veils are very thin here. Boundaries are not strong here. I remember years ago, the first psychic I ever went to when I was young, I walked in the door and she said, sit down, love, your aura's full of holes. And I said, what are you talking about? I didn't understand what she meant. She sort of started to explain to me, you need to learn how to, protect yourself more and become more embodied in your body. Because in Pisces, we often seek avenues of escape by slipping out of the body, by daydreaming, by turning to drugs and alcohol, by just not coping with life, by giving up and not participating because it just all feels too hard. So when Saturn, the planet of struggle and hardship, comes into Pisces, and we'll get a taste of it on that day, like as soon as it moves in, I think a lot is going to happen, and I want to speak about some of the difficult things that humanity is going to go through, but also some of the absolute gems that are going to come out of this. So it's a water sign, so it's all feeling and a tremendous sensitivity. And so people are going to be feeling a lot. We're going to be thrown into feeling and emotions and tears and grief and sorrow. You know, that phrase, the veil of tears, comes to mind. There will be in the collective field a heightened sense of, you know, suffering and grief and sorrow. I feel that during those few years of Saturn in Pisces, many souls will leave this world for various reasons, which will cause a lot of grief and sorrow in the collective field. Yeah, I think that's just how it is. And it can be also experienced as depression, just feeling weighed down, just feeling really, you know, people are exhausted. We've been through a lot in the last 3 years. People are tired.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, remember that during this Saturn in Pisces, there will be many other things moving with the planets. I'm just looking at this piece of it.
Yeah.
So,
and I just want to say too, like, absolutely, that is something that I'm, you know, happy to hear my crone mentor talk about too, because I've been saying the same thing for a couple of years. Like, these next few years is death. You know, it's going to be a lot of death, metaphorical, physical,
yes.
literal. There is the fact that Saturn, you know, is super karmic. And I loved when you just talked about with Neptune, that sense of emptying out. And guess what? You know, as soon as Saturn moves in, we look at the signature of the transit. He is trine the South Node in Scorpio immediately, making the exact trine at 4 degrees on the 15th of April. So the fact that he is already connected to the Scorpionic Death Node, Pluto release is, you know, it is there. And like Babula said so beautifully, kindly and gently, that there will be a lot of souls leaving this physical earth. Like, yeah, the suffering will happen, and we do have to remember that with Pisces. Pisces is, you know, I often look at the fish as one is floating on the sea of life and the other is drowning in the sea of despair. Exactly. So swimming in those opposite directions as well, you know, so really fundamentally understanding that this is a very important transit, because we are closing off pretty much a 30-year cycle of Saturn as he closes the whole zodiac. So exactly, it is very important. I'll let you go on, but I just wanted to add that.
Beautiful, Tiani. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so, you know, it reminds me of those times in my life, and I would imagine pretty well everyone else has experienced certain times when the despair is so acute. You know, I've experienced, you know, I'm recalling right now one night when the despair was so acute, I was on my knees in the middle of the night crying, like I just was absolutely in despair. And all I could do was just call out, help me, somebody help me. I don't know what to do. And the next morning, a miracle happened. And it makes me want to cry. I'm not joking. And this is what happens in Pisces. There's this two fish, the despair and the suffering of this human experience. And let's be honest, it ain't easy being a human, is it? It's not an easy gig, you know, and all hail to all of us who are here. It is heroic. It is heroic.
It is heroic.
Yeah, it's the despair often, not always, of the human experience, but it's also the other fish which can open us to untold bliss and ecstasy. This is the agony and the ecstasy of this life. All of it. It's all of it. And it's the connection to God's spirit source, the divine, the unknown, the unnameable, the mystery of it all, that is always present and always guiding us. And that is what sees us through. And I think that's going to be an incredibly important piece during these next couple of years. People's connection, relationship with soul, spirit is going to be challenged but also strengthened powerfully. Intuition, inner guidance, inner knowing. Churches and religions are going to go through a lot. People's faith is going to be challenged. Yeah, in all kinds of ways. But I think a fantastic thing is going to happen for a lot of souls is that we're going to learn to trust our inner guidance system more than ever. Our inner knowing, our inner intuition, like real, it's going to become so evident and so strong, which is because Saturn brings strength, doesn't it? You know, through hardship, we actually get strong. And we claim an inner authority because, you know, we often see Saturn as those external authorities, but in the end, through these, you know, through this journey of life, we understand that true authority is within. And when that becomes stronger, it becomes unshakable. No one can take that away from you, ever. You've earned it. That to me is the real gem of Saturn. And so I think in Pisces, for so many people, it's going to be around our spiritual sense of who we are spiritually. I feel is just going to get stronger and stronger, but it won't all be easy, you know, but I think we're going to get very strong spiritually because that's what's needed on planet Earth now. That's a critical point that we've come to. We have to understand really who we really are. And back to that issue of death and dying, the way I look at it, we older souls, and pretty much, you know, anyone listening to this would be that. Goodness me, how many lives have we lived? How many times have we done this before and we've died and just, you know, here we are back again? I mean, it's no big deal, really. On a soul level, it's really no big deal to leave this body and return back home. And then at the appointed time, you know, here we are again. So there's this tremendous fear people have of death. And yet if you've been around death, it can be the most extraordinary, beautiful experience because the veils part unopen and we're in that numinous. It's like being in the room when a baby's being born. It's kind of the same energy as when someone leaves the body. Yeah. You know, you're in the presence of God. I want to use that word. And so yeah, it's such a huge, important transit at this pivotal time on planet Earth. And as, of course, we know, and I'm sure, you know, there'll be someone else speaking of this, interesting, isn't it? It's the same year that Pluto moves into Aquarius. Talk about two pivotal shifts.
Yeah, both in March too. It's wild.
Yes, March is a huge month because
March is fucking next level. Seriously.
I know. I think I'll be cancelling all bookings in March and taking the month off. Because
yeah, I'm booked. I'm booking into May, and I looked at that March week, and yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do anything there because I can just already feel the palpitation of two huge planets. Saturn hasn't been in Pisces for 30 years, and Pluto hasn't been in Aquarius for 248 years.
Exactly. And these
deal.
Exactly. And these two last signs of the zodiac, they're the last signs of the zodiac.
Exactly.
They're about this collective process. And it's understanding who we are and why we came here.
Yes.
And what's going on in the bigger collective field. Because what's going on isn't only planetary wise on this whole planet, it's galactic what's going on.
True.
It's very big picture. So I mean, it's exciting and it's also challenging as we navigate our way through it. But so my recommendation is to understand that we are going to be releasing a lot during Saturn in Pisces, because I remember when my grandson Isaac first got sick, and he was really sick. And then about 4 or 5 days later, Lucy, she got sick, really sick. And I just said to Kate, okay, we have to surrender. We have to surrender to this, just completely surrender. Because to fight it or to try and carry on with normal life is just ridiculous. And that's what Pisces is about. We learn to surrender. And then if we open up, and I just kept calling on help, help the family, it's calling on the angels every night, like just protect this household, let everybody sleep, and just kept calling in that help. So Saturn in Pisces is that being grounded in the reality of here and now in this physicality, and opening up to the divine and all the help that's always present and available if we just open and call on it and ask, and then we find that, like I was saying before about the agony and the ecstasy, open to those spirit experiences of ecstasy. And Saturn teaches us to be grounded, doesn't he, in reality? I often call him the meat and potatoes guy. He's the master of facticity, of just physical reality. This is real, deal with it. And so if we're grounded in our body and in the reality of now, and from that point, like Saturn is the base chakra. If we're grounded and embodied in our physical reality, and then we, through Pisces, open up to the universe, the cosmos, to God, we are able to receive all of that energy in a way that we can't if we're not grounded and embodied in reality. The body can receive all of that bliss, actually, and ecstasy and divine information in a way that we can't if we're not grounded and present.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like a tree, its roots have to, I was going to say its roots have to be deep in the earth, which is very Saturn, but in Pisces, it's almost like our feet need to be deeply in the ocean.
Yeah. And we do really, because everyone for the past, like especially decade at least, has been too focused on ascension and all of these things, but we must descend to ascend. And ultimately, just with Saturn, like you said, being the base chakra and Pisces ruling the feet, it's all ground, it's all earth star chakra. And and for anyone who knows me, I'm all about embodiment. Hello, stellium in Taurus. We don't have to actually escape reality, and because I'm a day chart as well. So remember, if you're a day chart, Saturn's actually your homeboy. You work well with him. But if you're a night chart, he's your out of sect malefic. You actually find him a little bit of a struggle to deal with. So the thing is that ultimately, being in this experience, we can be in ecstasy and divinity, but we still have to accept the brutality of this human existence. So there really is this play on meeting both of them with our heart. And definitely, like you said, and especially as soon as you were like, Saturn's the base, I'm like, of course, and Pisces is the feet. Like, we have to be in our bodies, and Jupiter moves into Taurus. Like, come the fuck on, people. Like, we are about embodiment here. And if you've already been doing that work, this is great. But I find that it is challenging for those people who haven't been doing this work, because like you said, there's going to be hardship, but there's going to be great reward. And again, that Saturn in Pisces is that invitation to, like I wrote down here, you wrote the inner authority. And yes, Saturn's authority, but Pisces is inward and devotion and connection to everything. So again, like coming back, slipping into your soul, slipping into who you are, and stop outsourcing your joy and happiness and decisions and things. It's like coming back to the self. And that really feels like such a ball of what this is about as well.
Exactly. And so things we can do to support ourselves during that Saturn in Pisces period is turn to Piscean activities, like take care of your feet. Literally, really bring your attention to your feet. Like, they need help, like massage them, walk barefoot, get people to work on your feet, get your feet into water, go to the beach, baths, or just get I love using astrology literally. I think you do too. Get real literal. This is the water sign. This is the sea. And the other things that Pisces is like music. Flood your house with beautiful music. I paint. Let the muse come through you. Let go. Let whatever and most people have some sense of what this is for themselves. What helps you to just let go? Just let go. That's always, to me, the message in Pisces is like there's these angels behind us whispering, just let go. Just let go. It's okay. Let go. And then my experience, whenever I finally come to a point after, you know, struggling and resisting, so I go, and I just let go, that's when something amazing usually happens. Oh, wow, I never thought that was going to happen, because finally I just let go and stop struggling. And so it can, for me, it's often as simple as coming into the studio, putting on the music, painting, having fun, and having to dance around while I'm painting. And suddenly all that stuff just falls away. I'm in another reality. So find, if you don't know what it is, find that thing, that opening, dance, music, art, nature, to allow yourself to experience bliss. Because we are beings of bliss. We are.
Exactly.
You know, it might be, you know, making love with your partner, just open up and let go, you know, of all that stuff, because life gives us plenty of that stuff. So I think this is, you know, a beautiful antidote and a powerful healing, because medically, of course, Pisces is the feet. Definitely it's the feet, physically and metaphorically, it's the feet. And, you know, what's that beautiful quote by Nick Hahn about, you know, the real miracle is being, people say the miracle is about walking on water. The real miracle is just walking on the earth.
I love that.
Isn't it beautiful? But also medically, Pisces is the immune system. So this is another really important thing with Saturn. It's going to be, our immune systems have been so challenged and battered for decades now. We live in a toxic soup. And how do we, you know, keep cleansing and clearing all that stuff out of our body to eat really clean, natural food, and to take whatever natural supplements and do those practices and things that we know will help to strengthen and build a good, strong, healthy immune system, because we become more vulnerable when Neptune and Pisces are up.
Yeah.
We do. And we're more prone to, you know, bugs and, you know, little critters and so on and so on. We just are.
Yeah, you're so right about, I'm glad you brought up the immune system too, because, you know, even when 2020 came and it become a pandemic, and Neptune and Pisces had something to do with that as well. Like that has to do with illness. So, you know, again, we've got to, you know, now we're going to have two major planets, Saturn and Neptune, both in Pisces, which hasn't happened. I mean, we must have to go back so many hundreds and hundreds of years, because even 30 years ago when Saturn was in Pisces, the last time Neptune wasn't there. So this is very amplified. Neptune's at home here, and Saturn's, you know, I think too, like spiritual practices begin to get more grounded with Saturn in Pisces as well. So while we're channeling this Pisces energy, we're embodying it as well, because Saturn's like, get real about this. Magic is real. Like this is real life. Like we don't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be escapism anymore. It can be reality, which the word real is in reality, which is Saturn. And especially because we had that Neptune-Jupiter conjunction in Pisces, which was very underwhelming for most people earlier in 22, because there was these expectations, ecstatic bliss, divinity, devotion. But you know what? If you actually did the work in 2021, Saturn will help you anchor in the seeds, because it's, you know, Pisces and being water too, there's like a lot of fertility. And plus, you know, with Jupiter moving into Taurus, I mean, those two come together actually around the 19th to the 25th of June. Saturn is retrograde, Jupiter's in Taurus, both at 7 degrees. Again, that 7 degrees is being, you know, the 7 degrees is what he gets to. Jupiter actually makes that sextile to Saturn at 7 degrees. So again, there's this real flourishing that we have, this real anchoring in, but we can't do that from, you know, the tops of the trees. We have to do that from the roots. Exactly.
And remember, Buddha, Taurus, his enlightenment happened when he finally, after all the struggle, surrendered and sat under the tree and just sat in his body, and he didn't move. And he just said, I've done everything I possibly can. This is what real surrender is about. It's about doing the work. And then finally you just go, and we let go.
Yes.
But it's the preparation first that creates the possibility of the surrender And then you're ready for everything. Then the fruits flower.
And Saturn rewards preparation.
Exactly. Exactly. So just a final little piece. I love that you brought in that Neptune's been in Pisces now for many years. It's coming to the end of Pisces. And in 2025, pardon me, Saturn will keep doing this cuspal journey across the end of Pisces and into Aries, and so will Neptune. I wrote the date down. In February 2026, Saturn will be conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. That is
monumental
of a new beginning. We are now in this emptying out phase. It's huge. Just release. And it's going on. I see it everywhere. Everywhere. People are making changes. They're letting go. They're moving on. They're releasing this. They're ending this. They're releasing. Keep doing it.
The rain is just pouring down, just started, as you said, all of that, like this divine blessing.
Yes, exactly.
You're so right. This is the end. And I love that you really brought into the emptying out. You know, I love that, because this is what it is, a clearing. Like it's a full karmic clearing, like the karmic templates.
Exactly.
Past life, you know, especially with the South Node being activated immediately with Saturn's ingress. That's again, right. This is all of that old toxicity, and even in the realms that you talked about, even just physically, and the health system, and you know, right. The toxins that you're putting into your body and all these sorts of things. And it's this emptying out and this clearing, readying for that incredible ingress that I'm so excited about.
Oh my God,
we've never experienced Neptune in Aries in our entire lives.
That's right. And conjunct Saturn, they go in together. That's just unbelievable. 0 degrees of Aries together.
Well, let's book you in for that talk.
Oh my God, yes, please. That's right. I mean, God, there's so many more things we could say, but
of course.
Yeah, that's just, I hope that's helpful. It's sort of yeah, so really the agony and the ecstasy out of all, but please don't forget the ecstasy of it. You know, there will be moments of real bliss if we're like, it can get down to as something as simple as clean out your cupboards, everybody. Just seriously empty in all kinds of ways. Just get rid of stuff.
Yeah.
Less, you know. It's
absolutely.
It feels so good when we do it. We unburden ourselves.
Yeah.
And you know, and to be there for each other too during these, you know, times of trial and tribulation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an exquisite signature transit of next year, and you've just really unpacked so many of the elements for people to, you know, it was a rich conversation in that you've described things so well, which you do, which we love, because this is what a Pisces Sun Mercury will do. And of course, North Node is the description is felt, you know, we can feel what Babula is speaking about. It's like, yes, we feel that. We can honestly, like, it gives, you know, I've had goosebumps many times, like I can feel that physically in my body. And, you know, what you've given everyone is, you know, access to, you know, even just Saturn's wisdom and Pisces wisdom, and the merging of those two, you've really, I don't know, amped us up for, like, you know, but given us something so solid to hang on to. Again, like you've just said, the agony and ecstasy, which is maybe what I call this, because I think that that's so beautiful. That's beautifully said. You know, I even, you know, I'm constantly saying life is fragile, like it's brutal and it's beautiful, and it's very much like the agony and the ecstasy.
It is both of those things always. And, you know, I remember years ago when I was very, very young, there was a movie that came out about Michelangelo, and it was called The Agony and the Ecstasy. And that movie has stayed with me all my life, because that man went through hell and he created works of the most sublime, extraordinary power and beauty. And he went through hell.
Wow.
And it's just like that phrase, the agony and the, it's so this.
I love it.
It's so what we humans experience, particularly at this extraordinary time we're in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also loved your endure it to get through it. I'm just throwing out some Babula-isms to end the thing. you know, something else that Babula talked about is completing unfinished business, which is what Saturn does. So again, it's that completion. And also I wrote these 2 questions as you were talking about, you know, Kronos, which is Saturn swallowing his children. What do you swallow and where are you being swallowed? I think, and I'd written them and then you said those questions because I'm like, exactly, like they're 2 really great questions for us to ask ourselves as well, because again, we're breaking down, you know, the patriarchy, the government. We're really going to feel a very different sense with Saturn in Pisces, which is much more kind and compassionate and unified, as opposed to the cold harshness of Capricorn and Aquarius. You know, if we do remember, Saturn, these rings around Saturn, baby, they're ice. They are ice cold, my bitch, you know. That's Saturn. So we're going to go from cold Saturn to a warm Saturn, and we're going to feel our hearts reignite like this flame of truth again. And interestingly, I know it's Ceres, it's yeah, I had a look at some of the asteroids and I'm like, no, it just reminds me of Vesta and that beautiful flame that she brings. And that sort of, it feels like there's something very warming around Saturn in Pisces as well.
Yes. And you know, the other, I think, really important thing that I haven't said yet is that through suffering, compassion grows. We can't understand anyone else's suffering and have no time or, you know, interest in it if we haven't experienced something ourselves, you know. Like if you've been through something that's really difficult and then someone else goes through it, like all you can do is just go, I really get it. And you really get it. It's not, you know, it's not on a surface level. So our compassion grows. And I think a lot of compassion is going to be needed on this planet in the next couple of years, a great deal. It doesn't mean we always have to be demonstrating it all the time, but it's like, it's something about the soul grows, I think, when our hearts open in compassion. And humanity is really going through the ringer.
Yeah, and I love that. I think that's the perfect way to end. Our soul grows when we like open our heart and open ourselves to compassion and kindness, and that flow through us. And you know, that's beautiful.
And we really are all in this together. We really are, aren't we?
We really are. So there really is this beautiful sense of unity that, you know, this will bring too. So it's, as always, been incredible listening to you and learning. I took a page of notes and some Babulaisms myself, and I hope everyone got so much out of that. You know, let us know, give us any feedback. Of course, check out Babula's things, which I'll pop everywhere as well. Always an honor and a divine gift to have you on, Babula.
I love sharing with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and hope you enjoyed that one. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.